Welcome, everybody, to Gray Cloud's Thoughts. Today I'm going to talk about a comic book that I've had for a little while. I got it, I don't know, probably sometime last year for probably about $1 or something. It's called Coyote, and I've pulled up a little information about it so I can read it to you. Before we start, if you ain't familiar with Coyote, this is issue number 5. It was put out in 1984. By the way, if you could hit the like button and think about subscribing if you haven't. But the reason I'm sharing this is I read it yesterday finally, and I knew about this character because it was put out by Epic Comics, which was owned by Marvel, and but it says here the characters first appeared in Eclipse magazine number 2 through 8. It would later be reprinted in a color trade paperback, I Am Coyote, and then afterwards, a new comic book series, which is the one we're talking about here, started at Marvel Comics Epic Comics line that ran 16 issues. It was notable for the first published work of Todd McFarlane. According to Epic editor-in-chief Archie Goodwin, artist Steve Leahoa's departure after issue number 2 caused deadline problems from which the series never fully recovered, leading to its early cancellation. Okay, now, so let me show you a little bit of the artwork in this particular issue. But there's a specific reason I wanted to share this is because it gets into some neat. I thought it was fun. They put a little cameo from a dead movie star in here. So basically, Coyote. This is your character, Coyote. That's his girlfriend. And I'm trying to remember her name. I just read it once yesterday. But this is Coyote. And they both are like shapeshifters. He becomes a coyote and stuff. I believe she becomes a wolf. I'm not particularly. You can see here like the transformation going on. But they both have the ability to turn into animals. And then this is your like main. This guy owns some casino or something because part of this is set in a casino, as you can see right here. He also, there's like a religious lady that's speaking from the Bible and talking and preaching. He ends up wanting to order her dead. But what's interesting is at some point, Coyote and his old lady are out in the middle of the desert, and he starts talking about, like, there's this car that passes by. It's zoom, and then he starts chasing it because it almost hit him. But then he gets to a certain point and it's boom, and then it's gone. So he starts figuring out, because in his world and in the world that he grew up in, he tells this story, and so does she. She tells a story about, living where you have shape-shifting people. Some people turn into coyotes, some people turn into roadrunners. So there's all these different people that turn into different animals. It's kind of Native American lore. And they also mention that ghosts are in their world and stuff. So basically, the fun part of this book is, if you know anything about acting, you should be able to tell who that is. But basically, it's James Dean from like in the 1950s and stuff. He died, but he liked to drive fast cars. And so in this comic, it's like he's caught in a loop because the truck that hit him or whatever, like, there was a wolf that supposedly was the reason back then. The spirit animal was the reason that he, like, didn't see the truck coming and then collided or whatever and had his accident. So a lot of the book, and now it's kind of graphic too, though, because this is the lady that was religious and preaching, and the casino guy wanted her dead. she basically ends up taking care of them, gets the gun out of their hands. She's taking care of business there. But then her old man or whatever, he's trying to talk some sense into her and don't know what happened. She ends up shooting him. He does fry. But this is kind of graphic too. Look at this here. This, so, it wasn't meant for kids. The Epic line was put out by Marvel for mature readers and stuff. Kind of like if you thought of DC and you think of Vertigo, maybe. But he gets this jetpack so that he can catch up with the car finally that he's trying to chase with James Dean in it. It's just a crazy little story. It does end where they break the chain and James Dean gets to go on to the spirit world and he's not any longer trapped in the sea. Thanks, man. And he disappears and gets to go on to the next side. So this was a fun read. It was a take back to, just when I was probably in junior high, going into high school. Epic Comics was a big deal to me because they had Alien Legion. Alien Legion was a very big, one of my favorite of all time comic books. I have them all just about in North Carolina still. My friend Anthony has them. I just need to get there. I tried to tell him I would send him the money to send them to me. I don't know how much it would cost to send that collection I have there of all of them plus a few extra books, but they're still in good condition and still in the box I had them in. He told me everything was just fine there. So my drum set's still there, everything like that. But this is Coyote. I hope that, I hope y'all found it interesting, or I hope I wasn't too boring. And no, the artwork ain't, it's just kind of basic. But I always enjoyed the coloring and the type of paper that they were using at the time. It's still newsprint type stuff, but a real paper, like not glossy. But I like the way the colors pop out and look to be as far back as 84. It still was a pretty decent, in decent shape. I love going through old comics because you see the letters and stuff people have written and they cover them, give answers to people based on what they've asked or what they're talking about. But there you go. Coyote by Epic Comics, which was owned by Marvel. Look, back then it was only $1.50, $1.75 in Canada. Until next time, Mr. Great Cloud here, Sage of the Eternal Moment, over and out. Ditto.